So Lollipop Chainsaw RePop was a game that came out back in September 2024. It's a remake of the original version of the game, which came out back in 2012 during the PS3, Xbox 360 era. And since its release all those years ago of the original version of the game, people felt like it was underrated. It deserved a sequel or a remake a lot sooner um, than what we got in 2024. But I don't know. I feel like Lollipop Chainsaw, like the game or at least the remake, I think it underperformed in terms of sales in the sense where it didn't sell as much as people thought it would. It was um it was overhyped for like quite some time, and people probably thought it would have broken at least a mil by now. But I read reports that across multiple platforms like PC and PlayStation 5 and I think Xbox Series X, it managed to do like 200,000 copies or somewhere around that ballpark in terms of sales. So the game didn't even do half a mil in terms of sales. But at the same time, it's only been a few months. But the thing is, if the game was really like white hot and it was really as good as people thought it was going to be, it probably would have ended up selling more. But the thing is, one of the reasons why like the remake um, or the remastered version of the game probably didn't do too well in sales is because I think there were certain features in the game that was removed in a remake that was present in the original. For example, the comic book style intros for the characters was removed for some reason, and I feel like that kind of had an effect on the overall quality of the game itself, along with the fact that Lollipop Chainsaw appealed to a niche audience of gamers for the most part. Because when you think about the hack and slash genre, is pretty niche. Survival horror is not as popular as it once was, but I feel like that genre is starting to pick up in terms of popularity slowly but surely. Because I feel like games like Silent Hill are going to become more popular in the future. A lot of people are talking about Resident Evil 9, which is expected to come out sometime within the next few years or whatever. I do feel like, oh yeah, and you also have Alan Wake 2, which came out back in 2023. That game was something that people had nothing but good things to say about. So I do feel like we're going to see a resurgence in the popularity of survival horror video games. But but yeah, Lollipop Chainsaw for the most part is just I don't know, it's a game that I don't feel like casual gamers can really relate to. Juliet Starling is not really a character that people can get into because for the most part she seems kind of bland and doesn't have much personality and whatever. Um I do feel that this is a game like I feel like if a remake had happened sooner, it probably would have been a bigger deal. But at the same time, the original version of Lollipop Chainsaw didn't do too great in terms of sales either. I can't even remember what the sales figure for the original version of the game was. But I do know that with Lollipop Chainsaw Repop, the game got a Metascore of 68 and it got a user score of 8.0. And and I feel like maybe this game has gotten it's gotten way more heat than it deserved because I've read on different websites that Lollipop Chainsaw Repop had been blacklisted by gaming journalists. I've been hearing that the game was considered to be a terrible remaster. Um I don't know, just like all kinds of things. Like, people have been complaining about performance issues, missing features, bugs. People were pretty harsh on it. And the thing is, when you have an M-rated video game, generally speaking, you're appealing to young adults, or at least that's your targeted audience. And the thing is, they're going to be way more harsh and way more critical with their criticisms than teenagers will be. And children, for the most part, don't really criticize. They either just, they either like it or they just don't and they don't play the game or whatever. But yeah, Lollipop Chainsaw had been dragged through the mud by a lot of gaming journalists. But then I do feel like there are longtime fans of Lollipop Chainsaw who like the game regardless of whether or not it has missing features or what have you. But I mean, I don't know. I feel like this is a game that could eventually end up maybe doing a mill in like a year or two. But at the same time, like even if this game does eventually break a mill in terms of sales, I honestly feel like the game's not selling fast enough. We had just passed the holiday season, so that would have been a good time period for the game to skyrocket in terms of sales. So I'm coming to the conclusion that Lollipop Chainsaw Repop, even though like the visuals look a lot better, overall the gameplay and the quality, the features, it's not as good as the original version of the game. And as far as like the original version of Lollipop Chainsaw is concerned, when the game first came out back in 2012, it got a Metascore of 70 and it got a user score of 7.1. So basically, like the Metascore for the original version versus Repop, it hasn't really changed all that much. And I don't know. I feel like this is a game that, even though I've said in I've probably said in previous videos that deserved a remake and all that stuff, it's probably one of those games that probably should have been left in the past. If they were gonna like take out, features and stuff like that that made the first one stand out, then they probably shouldn't have made a remake at all because it's kind of half-assed and has issues and all that other stuff. But at the same time, I do feel like it's one of the games that kind of stood out in 2024 because it was something that people were mildly familiar with and it was something that people had high hopes and expectations for. I do feel like, the overall quality for this game could have been a lot better. And even if it was, and even if like features from the original were kept in Repop, I still don't feel like it would have made a significant difference in terms of sales figures or anything like that. If anything, I feel like the remastered version of this game came too late. I mean, I think it would have been perfect to have released this game back in 2022, which was pretty much a nothing happening year. And also, like 2022 would have been like the 10-year anniversary of Lollipop Chainsaw or whatever. So I think an opportunity was missed to release the game that particular year, and it probably would have stood out more overall in 2022 opposed to 2024. And as far as 2024 is concerned, um, it wasn't necessarily a great year for gaming, but at the same time, it was better than 2022. I still don't think 2024, touches 2023 in terms of it being a great year as far as gaming is concerned. But I don't think we're going to have too many years in the future that's going to be able to touch 2023. 2025 has the potential to rival 2023 in terms of being a good year for gaming, but that's something that we're just gonna have to sit back and wait and see if that actually becomes a thing or not. But as far as Lollipop Chainsaw Repop is concerned, the game definitely should have sold more considering how much it was hyped within the past couple of years or so. But who knows? We may have to sit back, give it some time, and maybe eventually it'll surpass 1 mil at some point.